Hello. Good evening. This is VK3 Echo Kilo Hotel, VK3 EKH, the official station of the Astronomical Society of Victoria, with the regular Friday night broadcast, coming to you from the studios of VK3 CSJ in Narre Warren South, broadcasting on prime frequency of 3541 kilohertz in the 80 metre amateur radio band, and also via the Melbourne television repeater VK3 RTV digital channel 1, and also on Discord. If you have Discord registered with Discord, you can see the HD stream that I provide on Discord in near real time. If you haven't got that, just go to Discord and register up, and once you've registered up, go to the call sign VK3EKHQRZ.com, and there is a link I provide which will link you to the video stream and the chat room associated with Discord with this Friday night session. We're also on YouTube while it lasts. You can find the YouTube stream on YouTube. Just type in VK3CSJ in the YouTube search engine and look for the live indication, and you'll see the stream 20 seconds later. Like I say, while the YouTube stream continues, it could fall over at any moment, so no guarantees on that. And unfortunately, if the YouTube stream falls over, it's usually because I've actually fallen out of the internet, and my modem, which is about 3 meters away from me, is showing all green LEDs at the moment, so we're pretty right. Anyway, welcome to this Friday night session on the 8th of November, and I trust everybody is in good health and feeling happy, more or less. We've only got a few stories tonight. We're going to just tune through them and see how we go. My browser is being affected by pop-up ads like you wouldn't believe. Something's decided to expire, and so I'm having problems with ads popping up, which is really annoying. So I tried to deal with that in the last few minutes, but that's put me under great stress, so I've let it go for the moment. Anyways, we also have a email address for anybody wanting to correspond, vk3ekh@gmail.com, vk3ekh@gmail.com for any signal reports or the like. And I hope everything else is okay as far as audio levels are concerned. Every week it's something different around here. Anyways, just making sure that YouTube or the level on vMix is right, because if it's clipping into the red, YouTube is likely to be protesting. So I think the level there is okay. Okay. Let me just read out the usual blurb about the ASV. I don't have any local frequencies running at the moment either. The ASV is a non-for-profit society for people interested in astronomy, attracting and catering for people from a wide range of ages and backgrounds, abilities and interests. First formed in 1922, the society has grown to over 1,600 members. Its activities are coordinated by a council of elected office bearers, section directors, and ordinary councillors. The ASV has weekly activities at our 2 metropolitan locations. One of them being the Morley Community Village and the Melbourne Observatory. And we host monthly Astro Talks at the Herbarium near the Melbourne Observatory. The Society's library is also located at the Melbourne Observatory and is open during our Astro Talks, our monthly meetings. For over 50 years, the ASV has played a major role in the care of the buildings associated with the Melbourne Observatory. Our members conduct astronomy for the people gatherings throughout the year, bringing telescopes and astronomy to Melbourne's parks and streets and schools. Please check the calendar. The ASV's homepage has a calendar, which you'll find under the Events tab, for times and dates associated with some of these street events. The ASV is currently involved in a number of major projects. We are involved in the restoration of the Great Melbourne Telescope and are also currently working on the installation of a series of remote telescopes at our dark sky site, which once complete will be accessible to our members to use. Thanks to a generous donation from one of its most long-standing and respected member, the Leon Mao Dark Sky site, which was donated to the Society by Leon Mao. He is located just north of Melbourne and has a pristine night sky viewing, pristine night sky for deep sky observing. That's what I was trying to say. The ASV has a 25-inch telescope. There's also a 40-inch telescope and a 16-inch telescope, accessible telescope by wheelchair, which I think is up and running now, at the Leon Mao Dark Sky site, and makes use of the existing telescopes at the Melbourne Observatory during some of the section meetings and gatherings that occur once a month at the observatory. Also located on the at the Dark Sky site is a fully steerable 8.5 metre 30-foot radio telescope, a Kennedy dish, which you can be involved with by the radio astronomy section. An annual yearbook is supplied to members as well, a bi-monthly newsletter called Crux, which all members are welcome to contribute to. The ASV's logo shows the Southern Cross and the pointer stars, and has a reference to a motto in Latin, Sic Atur ad Astra, I don't know if that's how you pronounce that, which is translated as "this way to the stars." The ASV is governed by a set of rules which should be read before applying for membership. The document is downloadable by following a certain link, which is on the ASV website. I think that link is working. Any person or organisation with an interest in astronomy may apply for membership of the Society. Yes. So the ASV homepage you'll find at www.asv.org.au. That's www.asv.org.au. Now, we're also coming up to our end of year event, the biggest event on the calendar for the ASV, which is called the Starbecue. And this barbecue usually drags in up to 300 people, and it is also, excuse me, also open for public to explore as well. So I'm just trying to see if there's any information on the homepage here for that. You have to get tickets to be able to do to get there. I think it's $10 a ticket. Let me just see what's going on here. Events. Yeah, maybe if I go to the calendar. Actually, let's just, before I do that, the calendar for November. The Astro Talk for November the 11th. No, yes, in fact, yes, it is. It's on the 11th, which is Monday. Okay. So this Monday. Now this was meant to be last month's Astro Talk, but the presenter wasn't well, so the presentation was delayed, and apparently it is scheduled or slated for this following Monday. It's called Cosmic Catastrophes. Could the Universe Wipe Out the Earth? So that's 8 o'clock this Monday evening from 8 to 10:30. Normally the Astro Talk is associated with our monthly meetings, but like I say, the Dr. Sarah Webb wasn't well, so they've now slated her in for the talk this Monday, coming Monday at 8 o'clock. And she's doing a presentation called Cosmic Catastrophes. Could the Universe Wipe Out the Earth? The synopsis is, and I think this is about right, what in the end will signal the demise of our world? It's a question we've all pondered, but what could actually happen? Join Dr. Sarah Webb as she unravels the mysteries of our planet's potential end in her upcoming lecture based on her new book. In 3 gripping parts, Dr. Webb will explore what makes Earth special. We examine what makes Earth so extraordinary in the grand scheme of the universe. We'll explore the Earth. We'll explore the birth of the universe and the fragile circumstances that led to our existence, and the alternative realities like our sun and a twin or Jupiter turned into a threat rather than a protector. 2, disasters waiting to happen. Dive into the heart-pounding possibilities of sudden disaster. From rogue black holes and asteroids impacts to gamma ray bursts and alien civilizations, we'll explore the science behind these theoretical events and what the odds are of them affecting us anytime soon. And 3rd, the inevitable end. We confront the inevitable fate of Earth and the universe, from the death of our sun to the collision with the Andromeda Galaxy. We'll consider how time itself might end. Well, time is a human construct, so if we aren't around, there's no time. Following Dr. Sarah Webb's presentation, we will be graced with the presence of Bill Stent, the telescope gent, sharing with us what's in the sky for November and December. Join us in person for this month's Astro Talk. Please arrive by 7:45 for an 8 p.m. start. Entry is free. If you are unable to attend in person, the event will be streamed live on the ASV's YouTube channel. And if you are connected to Facebook in any way, the Astronomical Society has many Facebook pages. some of which, of course, can only be joined if you are a member of the ASV as such. But the main ASV Facebook page is open for public to look at easily, as far as I know. But there will be a video stream there that you can click onto Monday night, and also YouTube. So so don't forget that one. In fact, I'm glad I've remembered to read that out, because I had forgotten that. So this coming Monday, of course it'll be recorded. Anything that goes to YouTube is recorded by default, so you can catch up with it later anyway. Astro Talk, cosmic catastrophes, could the universe wipe out the Earth? This coming Monday, 8 o'clock start. Excellent stuff. Good on you, ASV, for presenting that, and Dr. Sarah Webb finally being able to get up the strength to do that. Might mention too, this is of course this is also a live thing. It's happening at the Melbourne Planetarium. Melbourne Planetarium. Good grief. Herbarium at the Melbourne Observatory. The library will also be open too. From 6:45, our ASV library will be open. Before the meeting, 6:45 to 7:45. Then once the meeting is finished, the library will be open again for about another 45 minutes from 10 o'clock. Okay. Now I was going to go to the Christmas Star Party. Is there anything there I can bring up? Just looking for this. Where are we with the... I can't see it here in December. Why can't I see it here in December? Maybe it's in November, so I go back a month. Sometimes I have the Christmas Spark Party in November. Yes, I think it is. Yep, they have it for the 30th of November is the Christmas Star Party. Yep, November 30, 12 o'clock, 1st of December. Is it the 1st of December? It's the 30th of November. Oh, Sunday, including Sunday. I see. All right. So, yes, so the ASV Christmas Barbecue for 2024 members only ticketing, but there is a public ticketing as well. This ticket gives you access to the LMD SSS for the duration of the ASV Barbecue, an evening of fun and astronomy under the stars. There's a door prize raffle. All attendees will be able to get a ticket. $10 for adults. Children under 16 are free. What's scheduled from 1400 hours is solar viewing, and from 2 o'clock onwards, solar viewing, kids activity area, radio astronomy meeting, or astronomy get together. There's Lions Club barbecue. There's something about bird life at LMSS, botanical tour, site tour. Yeah, a whole bunch of things going on. Just trying to see where the reference is to the public. I know it's open to public as well, but you have to get tickets nevertheless. Just visit the ASV website for information on all that, and it will be there somewhere. But that's the Christmas barbecue, which, like I say, can draw up to 300 people. Can be quite a busy site. Of course, the only thing that puts a downer on it is cloud cover. Yeah, hopefully that won't be the case. You're tuned to ASV Radio, VK3 Echo Kilo Hotel, the official station of the Astronomical Society of Victoria, with the regular Friday night broadcast. Let me just check my emails. We have there's a couple of emails that have come through. One from John De Kaiser. G'day, John. He's listening via the Kiwi SDR. I wonder if that's Paul's SDR you're listening to, John. VK3KHZ's Kiwi SDR. G'day, Stephen. He's saying it's good signals on 80 and all systems are good. Thank goodness for that. So, yes, any further emails, please send to vk3ekh@gmail.com. While I'm at it, I can probably look at the chat room for vMix. Yes, there I am, so it's good. I can see Brett's there. G'day, Brett. VK2CBD. Our resident Mount Burnett member is there, VK3KDM. G'day, David. And Mr. VK3SBX. All right. All right. I think enough of that. We also have a solar report from Tamworth Scove. Even though I didn't go down to the Reist get-together, last weekend was the, what do they call it, the EHAM, Econ? I can't remember what they called it. Anyway, there was a kind of a convention thing happening down at Hobart, courtesy of the Reist group. And yes, they had Tamworth Scove as a key what do they call it? Key speaker anyway, for the first presentation. So I'm not sure exactly how that went, but nevertheless, we've got the Tamworth's latest solar report tonight, 10 minutes worth, covering, her calendar is covering up to the Sunday this weekend, so it makes it reasonably current. So I shall present that in a short while at 10:21. Not right now, but that's what the time is. All right, enough of the coffee. Now, this page is just covering pop-up ads. It's annoying me. This is something from astronomy.com, and they're talking about we're entering the era of private space stations. There's only one image associated with this article, so I'll throw this image up so that you can stare at something else other than me. Okay, where's the article gone? As the International Space Station ages and is eventually decommissioned, private companies may operate the orbital platforms of the future. The era of international space stations is coming to a close. In the near future, NASA plans to bring down the station in a controlled deorbit. The end of the International Space Station will leave a large gap in human spaceflight, although the Chinese Tiangong space station is currently active. Still, to make a space pun, nature abhors a vacuum. Right, nature abhors a vacuum. Multiple companies are actively working on creating the next generation of crewed space stations to maintain a human presence in space. Of critical importance, these will be privately owned and operated by a variety of commercial entities. This represents a significant departure from government-owned and operated space stations of the past, such as Skylab and or the International Space Station. Here are some updates on the key players in this rapidly developing field. VAST, located in Long Beach, California, and that's, I think that's the name of the company, VAST, V-A-S-T. VAST, located Long Beach, California, has formed a close relationship or partnership with Elon Musk's SpaceX. VAST has plans for both simple and complex space station designs and is currently, my page just flipped in front of me, is currently, what's happened to it? Clear privately, they're initially offering, I'm looking for the word currently. It disappeared from me. Vast has plans for both simple and complex space stations designs and clearly aiming at working with private industry. Their initial offering is known as Haven. Haven is somewhat reminiscent of early Russian Soviet space stations in the entire station is placed into low Earth orbit by a single rocket, in this case a Falcon 9 launch vehicle. Once in orbit, a separately launched Falcon 9 with a Crew Dragon spacecraft carrying up to 4 astronauts would dock with Haven for a stay of up to 30 days. It's not clear who Vast is targeting for stays aboard Haven, as the company's website seems to be trying to appeal to both potential space tourists as well as those interested in performing medical or scientific research in orbit. Haven promises round-the-clock access to Wi-Fi via SpaceX Starlink satellites and at least one large observation window. Haven can potentially be rotated to produce artificial gravity as well. Vast hopes to start Haven launches in the year 2025. Vast is also planning to build a much larger space station known as Haven 2. The primary module is a large version of their Haven station with 2 docking ports, significantly more volume, and several large windows. Vast plans to ultimately link multiple Haven 2 modules in a row. Beyond this, Vast hopes to one day develop a station made of 8 Haven 2 modules built around a central hub. The image that's on the screen right now is the Lockheed Martin's Star Lab, and is one of several currently proposed private space stations. The company hopes to have it built by 2027. Good grief. That's when I'll be retiring. Blue Origin. Never one to be left out, Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin is developing its own private space station known as Orbital Reef. The recipient of the $130 million in the form of a NASA development contract, Blue Origin is thinking big. Along with several corporate partners including Sierra Space, Orbital Reef is planned to be a large facility, although exact dimensions are not available at this time. Constructed from many different modules that could be launched aboard Blue Origin's New Glenn heavy lift launch vehicle, which has yet to fly itself, Orbital Reef would contain a mixture of areas for researchers to work as well as for space tourists. Excuse me. Interestingly, some of the modules planned for Orbital Reef would be inflatable, thus reducing launch mass, simplifying construction, and allowing for the creation of large volume modules. Blue Origin states that it plans to provide crew and cargo transportation via Boeing's Starliner spacecraft, although recent events may force rethinking of that plan. Blue Origin also hopes to have Sarah's Space Dream Chaser spaceplane, which has yet to fly, visit Orbital Reef. Various module configurations are available online, and it's not clear which would be the final form of the station. It seems likely that some modules could be moved from one location in the station to another to allow different configurations after initial assembly. And then you've got Axiom Space. Axiom Space is a large Houston-based private spaceflight company. Axiom Space has organised 3 private space flights to the International Space Station with a planned 4th mission to follow. These flights used a SpaceX Crew Dragon capsule launched by a Falcon 9 rocket. When it comes to space stations, Axiom Space has several irons in the fire. In 2020, NASA awarded Axiom Space $140 million to develop a commercial module to be part of the International Space Station. The segment known as Axiom Station would potentially serve as a place for commercial astronauts who would be conducting research in the microgravity environment. Axiom Station is currently under construction in Turin, Italy, by the Thales Alenia Space, a private manufacturing company. Thales Alenia, not sure how you pronounce that. Given that Axiom Station would be added to the International Space Station relatively close to the end of the overall station's construction, Axiom Space has further planned to then potentially use the module as the base block for their own independent private space station, or possibly build a second identical module to serve as the base block. Axiom Space is also looking at adding other modules to the International Space Station, some of which could potentially be repurposed into parts of the future independent Axiom Space Station. Some of these planned modules include an inflatable structure, for some reason my page keeps flicking up and I keep losing the sentence, so it's really been a devil of a job for me to keep my eyes on that. I don't know why the text keeps jumping in front of me, but it's doing it. Habitable module, research module, power transfer module connected to an enormous solar array. In theory, all of these modules, and there it goes again, in theory, all of these modules could interconnect in space and serve as a large independent private space station. Axiom Space has what can only be called ambitious plans, and they have made good progress on their first module. Their completed flights to the International Space Station give them street cred that other private space flight companies do not have. And then we have Lockheed Martin. Lockheed Martin, in partnership with NanoRacks and Voyager Space, is working to develop its own free-flying commercial space station known as Starlab. Starlab is relatively early in its development, and the design specifications for the station have changed over time. Currently, Starlab is envisaged to be 2 modules. The first is an unstaffed service module that will provide propulsion and power for the entire station via a large solar array. The second, tentatively called the habitation module, is where astronauts would live and work. In some literature about Starlab, the habitation module has been reported to be inflatable. Unlike other private modules or space stations, Starlab is being planned as a payload for SpaceX Starship Super Heavy launch system, given its proposed large size and diameter. So, to finish off, the future is now. Given all this development of private space stations, one cannot but help to recall the famous scene in Stanley Kubrick's 2001 A Space Odyssey, where en route to the moon, a commercial Pan Am Clipper spaceplane flight passes 3 other space stations on its way to a large rotating commercial space station, complete with a Howard Johnson's restaurant. Kubrick may not have been too far off the mark. It seems likely that one or more of these commercial space stations will make it to orbit. If that comes to pass, it will usher in a completely new era of human spaceflight, private companies will ferry private astronauts and researchers to private space stations without government ownership or daily oversight of their activities, although some overall regulation is likely. Such a reality may come sooner than we think and will likely only increase the pace of space station growth and development. Right. So, yes, interesting things are indeed afoot when it comes to orbiting space stations. I do look forward to a rotating space station. It will be very interesting to see how well that will work in orbit around Earth. Given the current political status in America, I don't know whether there's going to be a hold placed on a lot of that activity for certain reasons. That's yet to be found out, though. Alright, you're tuned to VK3 Echo Kilo Hotel, the official station of the Astronomical Society of Victoria, with the regular Friday night broadcast here on 3541 kilohertz at 10:35. Now, talking about SpaceX, SpaceX Starship launches Flight 6 mission updates. SpaceX Starship mega rocket is the world's biggest and most powerful rocket and the giant booster that will launch the moon lander for NASA's Artemis 3 mission that aims to land astronauts on the moon by 2026. The next Starship launched by SpaceX will be Starship Flight 6, which will test new upgrades to the ship and the booster, while flying a similar profile to that of Flight 5 on October 13, which saw the successful first landing and capture of the Super Heavy booster, which was pretty amazing. What else is there to this article? SpaceX is now targeting November 18 for its next Starship launch, which will loft the 6th test flight of the world's largest rocket. Flight 6 of Spaceship X Starship and Super Heavy booster is scheduled to lift off no earlier than Monday, the November 18, from the company's Starbase test site near the Boca Chica Beach in South Texas. Liftoff is set for 4 p.m. During a 30-minute launch window. What else? As with SpaceX's successful Flight 5 on October 13, Flight 6 will attempt to capture the Starship Super Heavy booster at its landing site using the giant metal so-called chopsticks. The ship vehicle, meanwhile, will attempt a soft landing in the Indian Ocean before splashing down and sinking. So yeah, hang out for November 18 for another chance to see whether they can catch this thing second time round. Good stuff. There's a little bit more to it, but I'll leave it at that. That's courtesy of space.com. Now here's something of interest. Something about Arecibo has come through. And we've got a picture here of the tangled mess that was once the dish. Look at that. Disgusting, isn't it? So sad. Now, I haven't read this yet, so I'm not really sure what they're on about. Arecibo telescope was doomed by hurricane damage and human failures, says report. Hurricane Maria triggered a sequence of events that led to the downfall of the storied radio telescope, but inspectors missed clear signals that the structure was in distress. October 31. Astronomical.com. Puerto Rico Arecibo Observatory was felled by the combination of a hurricane, an equipment failure never before seen in the annals of engineering, and an alarming lack of concern from engineers and inspectors when crucial support cables were seen slipping out of their sockets years before the main platform of the famed radio telescope came crashing down in 2020, says the report, released October 25 by National Academies of Science, Engineering and Medicine, NASEM. The publication is the most comprehensive analysis yet of the downfall of the fabled observatory, which occurred over several months in late 2020, when multiple cables holding the telescope's main platform above its 1,000-foot wide dish failed. The loss of Arecibo was a devastating blow to astronomers, especially those in Puerto Rico. But it was also, from an engineering standpoint, one of the most baffling failures of modern era, says the report. And while the damage from the winds of Hurricane Maria in 2017 triggered the sequence of events that led to the collapse, the sockets may also have been weakened by current induced by Arecibo's powerful radio transmitter. That's interesting. The report also finds that the cables that eventually failed were seen slipping out of their sockets in 2018 and 2019, but that contracted consultants did not think that was a threat. The slippages were also not taken into account in post-Maria assessments of the structural integrity of the facility. And an anomaly of the type observed at the Arecibo sockets should raise all kinds of alarm, says the committee member Habib Tabelabai, an expert in structural cables at the University of Wisconsin, tells Astronomy. He says, "I give this analogy. A patient goes to a doctor and he has his eyes bulged out by 1 inch. The doctor looks at it and he has not seen anything like this before, and he consults his medical books, and there's no mention of this in their books, so this anomaly should not mean that it is okay." Right. Missed signals. The first cable failure leading up to the collapse occurred August 10, 2020. This cable was an auxiliary cable supporting the telescope's platform, and at the time the observatory officials were optimistic it could be repaired. However, this was followed by a main cable failure on November 6, 2020. This led the telescope's owner, the National Science Foundation, NSF, to conclude the telescope could no longer be safely repaired, and indeed to be decommissioned. But before that work could begin, another auxiliary cable gave way, immediately causing the 900-ton receiving platform to crash into the dish below on December 1, 2020. The cables were held in place by spelter sockets. Spelter sockets, a common type of cable socket that can be welded shut by filling it with molten zinc and letting it harden. But according to the report, these sockets began to fail after Category 4 Hurricane Maria battered the observatory in 2017 with winds of up to 118 miles an hour or 190 kilometres an hour. Gradually, the zinc lost its hold on the cables and allowed several of them to pull out, the report says. Absent Maria, the committee believes the telescope would still be standing today, but might have eventually collapsed if its unique accelerated zinc creep had not been addressed before it was decommissioned, the report says. There were also missed warning signs. The report says in 2019, Arecibo staff recorded that key cables had begun to slip out of their sockets by as much as 1.5 inches. But neither staff nor contracted structural engineers appeared to recognise the threat this posed to the entire structure. The slippage should have raised the highest alarm level, requiring urgent action, the report states. The lack of documented concern from the contracted engineers about the about the inconsequential of cable pullouts or the safety factors between Hurricane Maria in 2017 and the failure is alarming. Had the cable slippage been identified as an issue well before the first cable failed, it would have been safe to access the top of the towers to install devices to relieve the loads on the sockets. And there's actually a picture here that shows this slippage. Where are we? It's just here. This was the photograph taken of that slippage of the cable socket. Now, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, if I hadn't been one of the engineers or the people inspecting these cables and even been bothered to take a photograph of it, I mean, obviously it's something that needs to be addressed straight away, wouldn't you think? In these two photographs you're seeing there, the cable that failed December 1, 2020, triggering the immediate collapse of Arecibo, was observed to have slipped out of its socket by nearly 1 inch prior to the collapse. The photograph on the left is from 2003, and the photo on the right is from 2019. How about that? That's quite a number of years between both photographs. Yeah, it's interesting. Anyway, the report goes on to say, misdirected repairs. The NSF told NASEM committee that the socket slippage was never brought to the agency's attention as an issue to be considered for future inspection, analysis or repairs. According to the report, Ray Lago, who headed the Florida Space Institute at the University of Central Florida in Orlando, the observatory's operator at the time of the collapse, told the committee, "I have used wire ropes and socket cables fitting devices, and in my experience as an engineer, I'd never seen a socketed cable with that amount of pull-through." But, he added, "I was told that it had been reviewed by an external engineer and that there was not any real concern about cable failure." The report does not identify the external engineer. In the aftermath of the Hurricane Maria, planned repairs for the telescope ran into bureaucratic hold-ups and funding was delayed. But because inspectors had failed to identify the cable slippage as the most pressing issue, none of the proposed repairs would have saved the Arecibo telescope from collapse, the report concludes. Instead, the repairs focused on one of the telescope's remaining main cables, which ultimately never failed. The engineering firm, WSP, was to oversee the repairs and perform structural analysis. Per the NASEM report, NSF representatives told the committee in 2022 that NSF was informed that the WSP structural engineers visited the site February 2020 to work on the spliced main cable replacement, and they performed inspection of the towers, cables and platform primary structural elements while there, but no additional damage was noted during those inspections. NSF further said that it does not have any evidence that WSP looked specifically at socket pullouts. The report states that the committee was not afforded an opportunity to question WSP, and that it was unable to coordinate a discussion because WSP was no longer under contract to Arecibo Observatory. As of publication, WSP had not responded to a request for comment. So the collapse is the first documented case of zinc creep resulting in cables pulling out of such sockets in over a century of use, the report says. The committee says that they do not know and cannot prove what caused Arecibo's extraordinary rate of zinc creep, but the committee did rule out some obvious candidates, like steel fatigue or corrosion caused by humid climate and salty sea air, finding no evidence that they contributed to the collapse. Preventative measures that Arecibo took to maintain the sockets were effective in those regards, the report says. The only plausible hypothesis the committee could think of is that the electromagnetic radiation from Arecibo's radio transmitter, for decades the most powerful on Earth, may have accelerated the failure. When subjected to electric current, metals and ceramics can deform, and a phenomenon called electroplasticity. This is used in certain manufacturing processes where high levels of current are applied to zinc. In Arecibo's case, the levels of current induced at the sockets would have been in orders of magnitude lower, but over decades of use, the zinc that secured the cables may have been deformed, allowing cables to slip. In other words, every radio signal Arecibo ever sent, every radar beam it bounced off Mercury or Venus or near-Earth asteroids, and even famous interstellar radio message it sent to a globular cluster M13 in an attempt to communicate with an intelligent alien life, may have cumulatively contributed to the telescope's eventual demise. The report says that the unique nature of the failure means it's important that the engineers learn from the collapse. The report leads the structural engineering lab at the UW-Milwaukee and plans to begin small-scale experiments to verify the process. If experiments can show that low levels of current can accelerate zinc creep, it would not only improve understanding of the limitations of the metal, but it opens up opportunities for exploiting it for the beneficial uses as well as potentiality. Right. Isn't that interesting? Yeah, most interesting indeed. All right. You're tuned to ASV Radio, VK3EKH. Time is 10:51. I think at this point in time we can move across to Tamitha and see what her latest report is. So let me just cue her little post picture up. There she is. And get her video ready to rock and roll. And let's hope we can do this without too many problems. You're tuned to ASV Radio, VK3EKH. And we've got to press that button.
We have some big flare players that are growing in Earth view and a big solar storm launch that could give Earth a glancing blow. Those stories and more in the news this week. If you want to learn how weather from our star causes impacts at the Earth that shape the future of our world, join Professors Dr. Jenny Meehan, Michael Cook, and myself as we guide you through a space weather certificate program like no other. To enroll in the Space Weather and Environment Science program offered at Millersville University, go to millersville.edu/SWEN. It's weather for the 21st century. This forecast also sponsored in part by CW Ops. Space weather this week is really picking up in activity. As we take a look at our Earth-facing disk, there are a lot of regions in Earth view, and we've been following the big flare players. In fact, region 3869 is finally rotating to the sun's west limb after giving us a bit of big flare activity over this past week. We also have region 3878, which continues to give us some big flares, but the one that's taken center stage is region 3883. Watch it. Pow! Right there. It fires off an a near M4 class flare along with a big solar storm. In fact, as we take a look at it in stereo coronagraphs, you can watch this very dense structure move off to the northeast. And it looks pretty much like this one's going to miss Earth. However, when we follow it in and look at the blast wave more carefully, gosh, you can see that big blast wave going off like that. And you can actually see some of the dimming regions are actually in the Earth strike zone. So this particular solar storm might actually have an Earth-directed component. So we're going to be paying close attention to region 3884 as it continues to rotate in through the Earth strike zone, because this region is still firing big solar flares and it could have more Earth-directed solar storms. And now as we switch to our sun's far side, we no longer have any spacecraft that are looking at the sun's far side, at least not for the moment. So we need to switch to simulated far side using AIA and HMI imagery of about 2 weeks ago to see what kind of sunspots might be lurking there. And as we take a look, we can see regions 3859, 3860, and 3857. These are the regions that have been rotating into Earth view on the east limb. In fact, I think region 3859 is likely new region 3883. But as we take a look at our JSOC HMI helioseismology far-sighted viewer, you can see region 3860 as it rotated to the sun's far side back on the 25th, and it continues to grow. So this whole set of regions, you can even see a little bit of activity here as well. These regions are going to be rotating into Earth view here over the next 3 or 4 days, and so that does mean we're going to have some more activity. We've got a few big flare regions that could give us more, keep that solar flux high and keep big flares on the menu. But then we've got a break. Do you notice this? We've got about a break of probably 3 or 4 days where things might begin to quiet down. So if we can kind of get through the mess that we've got right here, then we might settle down in about 7 to 10 days for a bit of a break before things get really crazy with all those older regions that rotate back into Earth view, with region 3869 leading the charge. And now returning to that solar storm that could be on its way to Earth, we take a look at our solar storm prediction model, ENLIL. Now this is NOAA's version of the model. The top panel's density, the bottom panel's velocity. You're looking down at the sun from the North Pole with Earth being off to the right. And as I set this solar storm model in motion, you'll see that storm being launched pretty much to the east of Earth. But it does look like just the tail end of this structure does hit Earth right about late on the 6th, early into the 7th. NOAA's expecting it to be about 2 o'clock UTC time on the 7th. So aurora photographers, if you're at high latitudes, you could probably get a little bit of a show. But if we switch to the NASA version of the model, again, you're looking down at the sun from the North Pole with Earth being off to the right. As I set this model in motion, you can see again that solar storm being launched, but this time it looks like it's moving a little bit more quickly. In fact, NASA has this storm hitting us about midday on the 6th. And so if the storm hits on the 6th, then it could be a little bit more intense of a blow, which could give us a bit more of an aurora show. But somewhere in that window between about midday on the 6th and early into the 7th, we could expect to see just a little bit, but I'm only expecting aurora photographers at high latitudes to get a decent show from this. Aurora photographers at mid latitudes, stay on your toes, but likely you're going to need to sit this one out. Now, switching to our moon, we are coming out of a new moon and on our way to the first quarter. And by the 10th, the moon will be about 64% illuminated. So you night sky watchers, if you want to catch those dim objects in the sky, well, now is your perfect chance. Now, switching to our solar storm conditions and aurora possibilities over the coming week, we are anticipating that solar storm glancing blow from that solar storm that launched pretty much off the east limb. At high latitudes, NOAA is expecting active to minor storm conditions with up to about a 20 to 25% chance of a major storm. Again, only if the storm ends up impacting us, because it could easily miss us off to the east. But then after that, things should be settling down. We will be going into a wind watch starting around November 9th. We could get a little bit of fast solar wind. So aurora photographers, if you're at high latitudes, you could definitely get a chance for some decent aurora. Now, aurora photographers at mid-latitudes, well, things are looking not quite as exciting for you. We're only expecting unsettled to active conditions, probably active conditions right around the 7th from this solar storm, with only about a 10 to 15% chance of a minor storm. And then things will settle down quite quickly. But we are, again, looking for that fast solar wind starting around the 9th, So we could get a little bit of a roar from that in case we don't get anything on Wednesday or Thursday. Now, switching to our solar flare and dayside radio blackout outlook over the coming week, we are dealing with quite a few X-flare players on the Earth-facing disk. That's why our solar flux is high. We're sitting in the mid-230s right now, and that would likely going to continue. We're sitting also at severe noise level 4 radio bands on Earth's dayside. NOAA's giving us about an 80% chance of M1 or M-class flares at R1 to R2 level radio blackout, and even up to about a 35% chance of X-class flares at an R3 level radio blackout. And these conditions will easily continue over the next few days. We are seeing region 3869 rotate to the sun's far side, but then again, region 3883 is quite a big flare player in of its own right. So likely these conditions will continue throughout this week, but if we can make it through this week, things will begin to calm down as we roll into next week. And now, as we switch to our radiation storm and polar aviation outlook over the coming week, everything now is in the D1 normal range. We've finally settled down from the big S1 and S2 radiation storms of last week. This is at flight level 360, so you aviators, everything is finally back to normal. It's also the S0 quiet range for everyone else. But right now we've got about a 15% chance of an S1 to S2 level radiation storm because of all the big flare players in Earth view, including region 3869, which is still rotating to the sun's west limb. So we're going to have that risk for a little while. It will calm down a bit as we move in through the weekend, and likely it's going to stay about the same. Looks like things are going to be okay. We're not going to have too much issue with radiation storms over this next week, but you have to pay attention to those ICAO advisories because we do still have those big flare players, and with some of these new regions rotating into Earth view, we'll have to see how they pan out. So the space weather this week is picking up in activity a bit. We do have a really dense solar storm that looks like the bulk of it has been launched to the east of Earth, but it does look like there could be an Earth-directed component. So aurora photographers, if you're at high latitude, you definitely could get a show if we end up getting a glancing blow by this solar storm. But aurora photographers at mid-latitudes, well, only if you're dedicated should you chase. And now amateur radio operators and emergency responders, well, we do still have some big flare players in Earth view. So even though we're saying goodbye to region 3869, big X flares and R3 level radio blackouts are still on the menu. So you're going to get a lot of noise on the dayside radio bands, and maybe sometime next week things will be calming down a little bit. So just hang in there. And now for you GPS users, well, we do have that solar storm that could have that Earth-directed component. So if you're on the night side of Earth and we do get a glancing blow from that solar storm and you're at high latitudes, just understand that you could have some dicey reception. But hey, at least the radiation storms have died down, so you don't have to worry so much about navigation issues up near the poles. And then on Earth's day side, well, we still have those big flares that pop off every now and again. So be sure to stay vigilant at dawn or at dusk because that's where your GPS reception could be a little bit off. I'm Tamitha Skov, the Space Weather Woman. Thank you for watching.
Okay. Thank you, Tamitha. As you probably gathered, that report was mostly for covering last week, but it does stretch out to this weekend. Not by much though. It's the only problem I have with Tamitha's release of her videos is that sometimes they come out at odd times of the week, and so if anything, what I play is for historic interest, and fortunate if it covers the weekend. Anyway, thanks, Tamitha, for your reports. Are always most benefiting. Now, in which case, we shall just quickly go to spaceweather.com, and the solar wind is currently at 375.1 kilometres a second at a density of 28.62 protons per cubic centimetre. The current disk of the sun on screen right now has several sunspot activity continuing to cover the sun. The excuse me, the sunspot number is currently 164. The radio sun, measured at a wavelength of 10.7 centimetres, is, just checking my level, 121212. Probably knock that up a little bit. The current, where was I? The radio sun is at 260 solar flux units. So that's pretty high, actually. And if we look at the auroral glow or oval over Antarctica as we speak, it's very, very faint at the moment. So there's not a whole lot happening with any auroral activity over Antarctica at this stage. There's a little bit there, but certainly nothing to write home about. The KP index, the planetary K index, is 1.33, considered quiet. The 24-hour max KP is 3, considered also as quiet. There are a couple of coronal holes in the sun facing Earth at the moment. I didn't capture that image, but you'll just have to take my word for that. Also, there is, as Tamitha was saying, an increasing chance of flares with the emergence of a new sunspot, AR 3889. 3889 is there on the eastern part of the limb. I'll go back to our image on that. You can just have to do that. So for those watching the TV, where our reference is to that sunspot cluster on the far left hand side of the image there, just on the limb coming around. So that's AR 3889 near the sun's eastern limb. There are now 3 big sunspots posing a threat of X-class solar flares. AR 3889 joins AR 3883 and 3886, all of which have mixed polarity delta class magnetic fields, suspected to have explosive magnetic reconnection. Susceptible to explosive magnetic reconnection. NOAA forecasters estimate 35% chance of X flares on November 8. Okay, I think that's about it on there. There's lots of other information on spaceweather.com, but I'm only really picking on the things that are relative. And as far as near-Earth asteroids are concerned, let me just do this first of all. Back to the camera. Potentially hazardous asteroids. As of November 8, 2024, there were 2,349 potentially hazardous asteroids, but none of them are on a collision course with Earth. Not yet. All right, I think that's it for spaceweather.com. And I think that's it otherwise. There were a couple of other reports I was going to have tonight, but just ran out of time. Mars rover finds evidence of ancient ocean on the red planet. And I thought another little article here, which actually doesn't go for very long. I'd be really going over time on it, but if you've ever wondered about how astronauts on the International Space Station vote when it comes time to voting, which has been and gone, astronauts have been voting from the International Space Station since 1997 and have cast ballots in every US presidential election since 2004 except one. Astronauts aboard the International Space Station orbit the Earth hundreds of miles above American soil, but that doesn't mean they can't vote while they float. Indeed, the Boeing Starliner astronauts Butch Wilmore and Sonny Williams, who have been in orbital laboratory since June after their first missions was extended due to safety concerns, said they intend to cast their ballots in the November US presidential election from orbit. They are not the first to do so, and they probably will not be the last. NASA astronaut David Wolf, aboard the now defunct Mir space station, was the first American to cast a ballot from the final frontier. Wolf voted in Houston's local elections after the Texas legislature, which oversees NASA's Johnson Space Center, passed a bill permitting electronic voting in space. Since 2004, the International Space Station occupants have voted in all but one presidential election, 2012, when Williams and crewmate Kevin Ford submitted absentee ballots before launching to the orbital laboratory. Most recently, the International Space Station astronaut Kate Rubins voted in 2020 race. Astronauts living outside Texas, meanwhile, have cast ballots by coordinating their local voter service department. It's a very important duty that we have as citizens, and I am, the author, looking forward to being able to vote from space, which is pretty cool, Williams told reporters during a NASA press conference in September. So how do they do it? The process is actually quite simple. Like other data beamed between the International Space Station and NASA's Mission Control in Houston, the astronauts' votes are sent through the agency's Near Space Network, which handles communications in low Earth orbit. After applying for an absentee ballot, astronauts fill it out electronically aboard the space station. NASA then encrypts and uploads the data into an onboard computer, which feeds it through the agency's Tracking and Data Relay Satellite System, TDRSS. Only the astronaut and their country's clerk's office can view the selections. The TDRSS beams ballots to a terminal at NASA's White Sands Test Facility in New Mexico. From there, landlines transmit them to Mission Control in Houston, where they are sent electronically to the country's clerk's office for filing. Astronauts forego many of the comforts afforded to those back on Earth as they embark on their journeys in space for the benefit of humanity, NASA said in a blog post earlier this month. Though they are far from home, NASA's networks connect them with their friends and family and give them opportunities to participate in democracy and society while in orbit. In March, NASA astronauts Laura O'Hara and Jasmine Mohigbal, part of the ISS Expedition 70 crew, voted from the orbital laboratory in Texas residents. Accompanying Wilmore and Williams on the International Space Station are the crews of Soyuz MS-26 and SpaceX Crew 9 missions, including 2 Americans who are also eligible to cast ballots from space. So there it is. There was an image associated with this article, which was this one here for those watching. This is what I was going to run during that speech. The good old American flag. Anyway, enough of that. All right. You're tuned to VK3 Echo Kilo Hotel, the official station of the Astronomical Society of Victoria, with a regular Friday night broadcast. We are still streaming on YouTube, I can see, and we're still streaming on Discord, so nothing's fallen over yet. On that note, at 12 minutes past the hour, I'm now going to go over to the 80-metre radio, wireless, and see if there's any stations wishing to check in for any check-ins. This is VK3 EKH, listening on 3541 kHz for any stations wishing to give reports.
VK3 GL, VK3 SPX.
Okay, acknowledging VK3GL, VK3SPX, VK5 Kilo Tango. Anybody else?
This is Victor Kilo 3 Kilo Italy Sierra.
And Andrew, VK3KIS. G'day, Andrew. Across to you there, Graham, VK3GL, VK3EKH.
Yes, good evening, Clint, VK3EKH, and the checking group, VK3GL. Yeah, pleasant good evening to you and everyone else who's, maybe listening out there but not checking in this evening. It's a bit of a short list tonight. I do apologise because I didn't catch much of the broadcast this evening. I've been flat out at work. It's been one of those fairly busy evenings, so it was really just a bit of a tail-end Charlie, and I didn't even log in online. So tonight I was just listening a little bit in the background for the last bit of Tamitha's broadcast, and then your comments there about voting from the International Space Station. So that was all quite interesting as well. So there we be. I wonder how they go up there, keeping up with all of the rallies and everything that have been conducted leading up to the election over there in the United States as well. Dear, oh dear. Yeah, very interesting state of play with all of that too, of course. Anyway, thanks for being there tonight, Clint, and doing the broadcast as usual. As I said, I really don't have too much comment to pass this evening because I was not in a position of lending too much of an ear to what was going on. So finishing up at just after 12:15 tonight, and I've got to be up early in the morning too. I'm going out with the Victorian Holden SS group tomorrow. There's an outing on tomorrow down to San Remo. So you may actually hear us portable on the local repeater from down at San Remo near Philpine. Have a good evening there, Clint. Good evening to everyone else who's on frequency. Your signal's about 20 over 9 this evening as well. Not quite as strong as usual, and the band's a little bit noisy here. VK3EKH, VK3GL.
Yeah, righto, Gray. VK3GL, VK3EKH. Not a problem. You're a good 20 over 9 here yourself. Yep, attenuator's not on. So, yep, not a problem. Have a good day tomorrow. I know you appreciate the chance to get out in the car and go to those particular events. So I don't know about the weather tomorrow though, but anyway, enjoy that time. Should be great. Okay, I'm working at the moment, not a problem. So yeah, we had an action-packed hour, so you've missed a lot. But YouTube hasn't fallen over, so you're more than welcome to replay on YouTube. I think the most interesting part of tonight's session was the Arecibo report, actually. I found that most interesting. Thanks, Gray. Across to Steve, VK3SBX. G'day, Steve, VK3EKH.
VK3EKH, this is VK3SBX. G'day, Clint. Thanks for the broadcast. Yeah, it was interesting about Arecibo, wasn't it? And just in retrospect, it just seemed so obvious that, cables pulling out of their mouths by that amount, it's just a clear sign that something's going wrong, and missed opportunities over more than a decade by the looks to try and do something about it. So, yeah, it's a big shame about that, but anyway, we learn from our mistakes. I don't know about the RF theory. Maybe they're just trying to find some excuse for their incompetence, but yeah, anyway, we'll see. Interesting about all those private space stations too. A lot going on there, isn't there? But be quite interesting. You mentioned 2001 seeing the private space stations on the way up there to the Pan American, I think it was, space station. Pity about Pan Am. Kubrick more or less had it pretty right, but he did get a little bit ahead of his time. It's taken about 3 decades longer to get there, I think, but anyway, yeah. All right, yes, and I was intrigued about Elon's latest efforts, he reckons he can trim $2 trillion off the US budget, and maybe Trump will give him the job of doing that, God help us. Talk about conflict of interest. Maybe they'll trim some of NASA's budget spend with SpaceX. Anyway, we'll see about that. They're all stuffed, I think. VK to EKH, VK to EKH is VK3SBX. Thanks, man.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. VK3SBX, VK3EKH. Yeah, I agree. It'll be really interesting to see how the next 4 years go. So, Elon Musk's got a bit a bit of an interest in space. So how things are going to work out that way, I don't know. Maybe his interest in Trump and his interest in space flight, he might be able to convince Trump as well to make sure that he doesn't do too much in the way of cutbacks. Somehow I think there's going to be some interesting discussions there. I wouldn't be surprised if Elon Musk pulls out in the first 12 months with Trump and goes back on his own. Yeah, wouldn't surprise me. Anyways, we'll be watching. Yeah, it's interesting about the idea of electrical currents. Well, they're going to be doing some tests, so stay tuned. Hopefully the results from those tests on their sockets and zinc and high currents might prove something. But yeah, I don't know about that. Yeah. It's an interesting thought, though. But yeah, clearly lack of maintenance was the thing, and probably a little bit of incompetence on the people that were meant to be reporting this stuff and didn't. So, but even if maintenance had been applied to the dish appropriately, it's probably inevitable that this disaster would have eventually have occurred either way. The thing the report didn't, this current report that I read out didn't really indicate is the earthquake that occurred just moments of the collapse. I can't help but think that the earthquake was the thing that triggered the collapse. Sure, the hurricane did some damage, and sure that some of the cables had failed already one way or another, so that the eventual collapse of the dish was imminent. But if that morning, the 1st of December, there was a earthquake in the Republic of someplace, the next island just north of Arecibo, Puerto Rico. I can't remember the magnitude. It's, I don't know, I think it was somewhere around about 3 or 4 magnitude earthquake. But there was a seismometer at Arecibo telescope that recorded that earthquake, and it was less than 5 minutes when the telescope collapsed. So I think there's some relation there. But they don't really harp on that. I don't know. Anyway, I know I've somewhere in my collection of diagrams and charts, I've actually got that picture, the chart recording of the earthquake, not recorded here, but the seismograph of the earthquake and the moment the Arecibo collapsed. So yeah, it was only, I think it was within 5 minutes, or at least within 10 minutes. I'm sure they're related. Anyway, we'll see. Thanks, Steve. Good to hear. Ian, VK5 Kilo Kilo Tango, VK3 EKH.
Yeah, good, VK3 this is VK5, KT at 2 Wells. Very good evening to all. My word, it's very noisy here tonight. Massive S9 constant here. We're averaging about S9 to 15 over their varies a bit, but more common 100% through the static. And very good broadcast. Thank you very much for your effort. I'm just wondering what Mr. Bond's going to do with the fact that that telescope is collapsed. VK9 3 EKH rather, VK9 double KT, good evening to all listeners.
VK5 Kilo Tango, VK3 EKH. Yes, you're about 4 by 9, about 4 by 9. A little bit difficult to copy, Ian. Something about a telescope you mentioned just towards there. I'm not too sure whether it's you're asking about my own telescope or another telescope. If you're asking about my telescope out in the backyard here, it's still a little bit of a ways from finally getting up and running. Where I was actually hoping last weekend, the long weekend that we've just had, Melbourne Cup weekend, to have made a start on the deck to get this 3 metre scope dome installed, but I'm afraid nothing happened. So I can't seem to find a time at the moment to work out when to get the items for to complete this deck for my telescope, if that's what you were talking about. But like I say, I will keep you guys abreast of any activity, and since there is no activity, there's nothing to say. So patience is a virtue. I can hear some possums fighting outside. All right, thanks, Ian. It's Andrew, VK3KIS, VK3EKH.
VK3EKH, VK3KIS, good evening, Tons and all in the group. Yeah, I was very interested in the article on the Arecibo collapse, and just listening to what you say about the earthquake. I had training in structural engineering, and the first image of that the cable, where it looks like it's flowing out, that would be a big warning sign. The second image, the one on the right, where it's sticking out even further, I would be running for cover at that point, and would have made a noise. That as with any of these corporate run facilities, you have to put it into the minutes of the meeting and make sure you document it. Otherwise, it's never going to be done, and I think that's exactly what happened. Also, the design style, the design technique of the dish made it susceptible to any erosion, corrosion, and earthquake. And I think it was a combination of the wind and hurricanes plus the earthquake and corrosion that did it. It wasn't a single event, but it was all of the events. The last one was the one that gets noted. But anyway, that's my 5 cents on the subject. Thanks for doing the broadcast, and catch you again next week with VK3EKH, VK3KIS73.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. VK3KIS, VK3EKH. Yes, you're most likely quite right. It's always the very last aspect to a disaster that's probably considered to be a contributing factor. But there is a fairly detailed analysis of the destruction of the demise of the telescope, which is on YouTube, and it's some engineering firm that's decided to do a YouTube video, or a video, which goes for about, I don't know, 15 minutes, I guess, but they go into some detail on the telescope's design, and then sort of comes up to a summary of how the dish collapsed. So they certainly don't report anything about the potential aspect of high electrical currents induced into the zinc sockets, which could have caused some problems. That's definitely a very current thinking that's going on. So, but yeah, seeing those, like I've got the images up on the screen right now. The I think it was 2003, or was it 2004 image on the left, and the 2019 image on the right. It's a very slow creep, given that time frame. Its displacement there is very subtle, but it's obvious, but still something's going on. So how they would have been able to have fixed that before anything, I don't know. There's so much tension on those cables. I can only think that the only way they could replace or fix something like this is to run another cable in parallel with the existing cable as a support cable, while the main cable is removed and fitted into a new socket or something like that. I don't know, or maybe keep the two cables side by side to help support the platform. I don't know. It's amazing engineering, nevertheless. I mean, Arecibo, the telescope, was only meant to be in service for I think it was 10 years. Its shelf life was only meant to be 10 years to serve a particular purpose, and but it went well and truly far beyond that. So it just goes to show that the engineering that was involved in the construction was definitely well over the top. They poured obviously a lot of money into it. So it did last. It's quite some time. Very sad though. I was hoping, one day to have gone across to that place if it was the only thing that I was going to ever do in tripping overseas was to actually visit Arecibo. I think it would have been an amazing place to visit and see this huge telescope. Anyway, it doesn't matter. All right. Is there any other stations wishing to check in tonight? VK3 EKH. On that note, we shall say a very pleasant good evening to everyone. Thank you very much, Lee, for listening to all those stations that do listen but don't report. I'll just check my emails one more time. There's no other emails. And the chat room, we still have Dallas there. G'day, Dallas. And the chat room itself, we had David there. Mike, g'day Mike, if you're still listening in the background. I think that's about it. So thanks for coming in and joining in. So until this time next week, 10 o'clock next week, have a safe week, look after yourselves, take care, and have a nice weekend. This is VK3 Echo Kilo Hotel on behalf of the Astronomical Society of Victoria, closing down for this evening and bidding everybody a pleasant weekend. Cheers for now. This is VK3 EKH on the 8th of November. Don't forget Friday, this coming Monday, for Astro Talk at 8 o'clock. And and all that too. So cheers for now, VK3 EKH.
VK3 Charlie Alpha Lima.
VK3 Charlie Alpha Lima, was it? VK3 EKH.
Yeah, Colwyn Conjure. Just a couple of quick questions, mate, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead, Colin.
Going back on the ISS, as you were talking about earlier, is there any sort of program that, I have downloaded some pictures from the ISS, but is there any sort of better program that is out there that I can use at the moment? I am using MMSSTV. I got pictures earlier in October. There was 10 of them I got. But is there any other better sort of program that might be able to download the pictures, or should I just stay with what I got?
Probably stay with what you've got. I haven't done any reception of the slow scan images. I think they're slow scan images from the International Space Station. So I think there's something called ham TV. I think you mentioned that. I'm not sure, but there's something called ham TV that's associated with the video broadcasts from the International Space Station, which, like I say, I think is slow scan. So if you, it's either the AMSAT website. It's either the AMSAT website or at least I can't think of what the link would be, but what the website would be. But there's maybe even if you type in ham TV in Google, you'll be able to find a website that'll talk about what software or program can be used to see these slow scan images that are broadcasted from the International Space Station. I don't think they're fast scan. I don't think there's any fast scan TV images, not that I'm aware of. I think it's all slow scan images that comes off the International Space Station, but I could be wrong about that. I haven't gone investigating any of that sort of thing at this stage, so I'm not really 100% sure, but I know there's something called ham TV, which I think is associated with the International Space Station, but that's pretty much all I know about that at the moment. So not much help, I'm sorry, Colin.
No, that's all right, Clint. No worries about it. I have heard there is another, I actually got this up on the computer early this evening. It's a website called Heavens Above. Heavens Above. And it's very, to me, it looked sort of very complicated in the setup. But, well, so far so good with me anyway. I've been just using the MMSSTV, and I do believe they will be transmitting from this Monday coming, which will be the 11th, until the 18th, which is the following Monday. So we got a link. We got a week. Just sort of looking around to see what other programs people may be using, or which could be better, or should I just stick with MMSSTV?
Yeah, I think that's the winning ticket. I had that in the back of my mind, the MMSTV, or the one that you mentioned. That's what I'm thinking of. I've heard that before, and I think that's what's used for the reception of the slow scan broadcasting. Yeah, look, I often mention heavensabove.com. So certainly the heavensabove.com is a free website, and I can hear possums fighting outside. The only thing that you need to do is in the configuration setup on the tab at the top of the screen, there's a location thing. And if you put in your exact location in latitude and longitude, that'll give you the predictions for the International Space Station will be accurate to your location. So there's nothing complicated about that. If you don't know your exact latitude and longitude, just use Google Earth. Just open up Google Earth and put your cursor over where you are, and look at the bottom of the screen there for the latitude and longitude, and then write that down, and then go to heavensabove.com and type in those coordinates and save that. And so whenever you go back to heavensabove.com, it'll always come up with your location. So you'll know that it's that anything that you're interested in looking at, any other satellites or celestial objects or the International Space Station, will be accurate to your location. But yeah, heavensabove.com is about the only site that I know of that will give you positional data for and when, the prediction times for when the International Space Station will be flying over. But yes, that slow scan is probably the one to hold on to at the moment. And I would say just a normal vertical antenna, just a vertical collinear, will work quite well for reception of the International Space Station. Of course, if you could have an antenna that tracks the satellite or the space station, that's even better. But that's a completely different ball game as far as antennas go. Anyway, I think you're on a winning wicket there, Kelvin. I think you're pretty right. You've got astronomy. Sorry, get the wrong thing. You've got heavensabove.com, and you've got the right software program. So it's just a matter of tuning in to the frequency. I'm not sure what the frequency is. I think it's 145 meg something. 2 meter frequency, the downlink frequency. I think that's what's being used. So you should be pretty right, I would say. VK3CAL, VK3EKH.
Yeah, VK3EKH. No, that's right. Yeah, it's 145 800. I'm also going to just a tracking map up here as well. I won't hold you too long, Chris. Yeah, I know it's getting late, and I'll get you on the face off too. But it's the one I've got here is live space station tracking map. So it tells me where the ISS is. Where its next path, where it's been, where it's going, blah blah blah. I've just sort of listening to any other sort of program that will give me sort of a better reception or whatever. But as I said, I think I'm on a pretty good wicket, Clint, so I might stick with what I've got.
Oh yeah, no, I think you can do that. I think you can do that, not a problem at all. I look in the years gone by. I used to have a program. It was called Instant Track. I used to run something called Instant Track, which showed you the full screen on the computer, a full screen map of the world, and the trick with that program was that you had to download the Kepler's Keplerian data. You had to go through that process of going to a website or something like that, and downloading all the orbital satellite data, and then installing that into Instant Track. It was a funny way of doing it, but I think the program is still active. I think there's still it's still available to download. Instant Track. It was called Instant Track. But I liked it because it showed you this a flat map of the world, and you could call up what satellites were orbiting in view, and a footprint. Actually, that's what I liked about it, was that it showed you a footprint of where the satellite was viewing. So the footprint was basically its radio footprint rather than an optical one. But you could use that, so that once that footprint was coming in onto Melbourne, you knew that you'd be in radio range of that satellite. That's what I liked about Instant Track, was that footprint thing. I don't think astronomy, not astronomy, I don't think Heavens Above has that sort of functionality. But there's bound to be another. I think there's a swag of satellite tracking programs out there, which would also facilitate for those footprints information. Instant Track. I might go and do a bit of Google and see if Instant Track is still available, actually. But you're talking about a program that's been around since the 80s. I think Instant Track was written in the 80s, so it's an old program, and whether it'll still run on Windows 10, 11 or whatever, I don't know. But yeah, what you've got so far is you're in the right ballpark, at least, Colin, not a problem. But sorry I couldn't be a bit more helpful on that one. I've been wanting to actually receive the slow scan pictures from the International Space Station, but I just haven't quite got there yet. VK3CAL, VK3EKH.
Stick with what I've got, and like I said, the last lot I received was early October, so they should be transmitting on the 11th, which is on the Monday coming, right through till the 18th, which is the following Monday. But anyway, we'll be tuned in for it anyway, Cliff, so thank you very much for your input, and we shall catch up here with you at a later date. 73, mate, and thank you very much.
No worries, Colin. Have a nice weekend, mate. We'll catch up with you. VK3CAL, VK3CSJ, EKH, CSJ on the microphone clear. Cheers, mate. All right. Just looking for Instant Track on the website. Couldn't see anything. Doesn't matter. Alright, well, I'm out of here. Turn that down. I'll be doing the WI broadcast Sunday morning on 1825 kHz AM, and the Vision streaming on my Discord channel at the same time. And then, of course, at 10:30 will be the main broadcast on RTV, and then repeated at 8 o'clock. And that should be it. So have a good weekend, viewers. We can get rid of that, I think. And where's my clock? There we are. Cheerio for now.